If you're new in town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Law by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the Masquerade. In this episode, we begin to unravel the mysteries behind the origins, motives and cultures of the 7 fallen houses in the world of darkness. This episode will focus on the house of the Restless Deeps, the Defilers. Sorry, didn't realise you were scared of heights. Don't worry, little lamb, you won't fall. You're in good hands. No one will die in or around Detonation Boulevard. You have my word on it. I know my name, Zacharias Zimri, doesn't bring you much comfort, but I'm a man of the word, for what it's worth. No, look, stop it. We won't be here long. I just want to show you something. Look, before this city was filled with bustling life, dying tramps, and a sprawling metropolis, a huge fuck-off river ran through the place, like, right through there. No mortal mind will ever discover this, but the foundations of it can be found in this place. You know, it was a romantic spot once. Oh, calm down. I'm not here to seduce you. I don't have the life in me for it. But a different house has fallen might, though, which shouldn't bring so much arousal as I suspect it will. The Sepetu I speak of is the 5th house, the Lammasu, otherwise known as the Defilers, if we use their more modern naming. Oh, come on. Did you really think we're going to go through these in a logical order? Nah, fuck off, bruv. We're doing things my way. House Lammasu, to put it plainly, are glamorous shape changers, becoming anything you desire and anyone that you need. They are also more capable of manipulating the bodies of others as well, granting perceived beauty over ugliness, but not without a price. They seek those who are both vain and broken, though, from my experience, those are often synonyms. Both are easy to ensnare in webs of glamour to be snatched away at a click of a finger or flick of a wrist. Some also focus on the inner power of an individual as well. Of course, creatures in pursuit of beauty are ones that are riddled with insecurity and frustration, which is somewhat of a weakness for the fallen. We all have some Achilles heel of sort, not as severe as your vampiric clan weakness. Through their vice, they are far more deceptive than is warranted. It makes them great manipulators, sure, but it is far more difficult to trust in a more neutral setting, as rare as that is. They are also remarkably petulant, requiring little provoking to set them off. From a mortal perspective, they just need a bit of space. The more you control them, the more they will bite back, figuratively or otherwise. As such, they are difficult to predict. This probably corresponds with a bit of mortal trivia, that is how the humans would remember them. The Lammasu were mythical beings originating from Mesopotamia, said to possess the facial features of men, bodies of lions and winged eagle serpent things. They were known as unwavering protectors that would engage in battle against the pursuit of some form of evil or good depending on the circumstance. Some would have likened them to a sphinx, basically. Beauty is a curious thing, innit? As it's all subjective, thus giving the Nereid, a nickname for the Lammasu, a large pool of targets. Many select spiritual and logical thinkers to possess, whilst others select those who are obsessed, a word I emphasise here, with seemingly trivial things, blotting out the ever-changing world around them. Now, the inverse is true, as many choose individuals who wish to take immediate action to change the world, or at least the world around them. There are also those who have the select views who have admiration, shall we say, for the flesh, the laws, the supernatural capabilities of our kin. Those that you refer to as demons reflect these. Of course, there is nothing stopping a fallen from learning any one that they choose, but there are 3 that are associated with the Defilers. The law of Longing gives the Lammasu the ability to influence the emotions, senses, and desires of others. This law allows the Defilers to utilize their perception, empathy, manipulation, intelligence, and intuition to supernatural efficiency. Those that specialize in this law assume Ishara, the visage of Longing. The Ishara are considered one of the most attractive fallen entities to humans, possessing a flawless appearance that resembles descriptions found in romantic poetry. However, their beauty exudes purity rather than lust, and their golden voices have the power to compel others to follow their comrades. High Torment Ishara are equally stunning, but their beauty is tinged with a dark edge, particularly in their eyes, which reflects a deep-seated hatred. At times, their beauty can take a very lustful tone, overwhelming the human mind. Before the rebellion, the Ishura had a challenging role: to serve as muses to humanity without violating God's decree by revealing themselves. Many found this role frustrating, and some even developed a longing to be among the humans they loved. The Ishura were one of the largest groups to join forces with Lucifer, but their sole purpose of inspiring desire seemed to have consumed them as well. The powers corrupted humanity with greed and gluttony, caused many Ishura to become resentful, as it often appeared that some humans were never satisfied. Today, the Ishura are divided between those who still wish to assist humanity and those who harbour resentment towards their greed. The law of Transfiguration allows the Lammasu to change the physical features of themselves or another. Those with this law as their primary law are Mammatem, the visage of Transfiguration. Despite their many abilities, the Mammatem are peculiar entities that lack a defined form. They are constantly shifting, leaving after images of themselves as they move. Some take on an androgynous appearance, void of any unique features. However, the High Torment Mammatem are far less fluid with their transformations. They're painful to witness, basically. They often manifest their hatred through their bodies, growing claws, sharp teeth, or other monstrous appendages. Although the Mammatem were once able to take on any form they wished, the modern Mammatem are severely limited. They used to embody change and worked with other houses and visages to bring that concept to the physical and metaphorical world. The Mammatem were concerned by humanity's fear of change and wanted to show them that change could be for the better. Unfortunately, after the fall, many wondered if humans would actually have been better to be left alone. Many Mammatem feel weighed down by the slow pace of humanity in the modern sense and wish to free themselves and perhaps the humans from these restrictions. So, definitely not autistic, and trans rights are human rights. Anywho, the Law of Storms gives the Lammasu control over the weather and power over the element of water. Adad, the Visage of Storms, are those who specialize in this law. The Adad are entities that have a resemblance to water and weather, with their green skin and electrical discharges crawling all over their bodies. When consumed with torment, they may grow quills from their shoulders, possess shark-like teeth and skin, and even spew clouds of inky mist like squids or octopus, whatever the plural of that is. Anyway, the sea's pollutants and contaminants may also manifest themselves in their form. The Adad's main duty is to control water from the depths of the sea to the vapor in the skies. They are more grounded in reality than some of the other fallen, such as the Nisakud, the Elil, and the Kishar, as their job requires them to manipulate the elements. Hence, they are the most practical of the Lammasu, capable of dealing with reality more than the Ishura and Mammutem. The Adad remain proud of their work to this day, as their efforts cover literally 70% of the world's fucking surface. However, some Adad recalled their previous role as a destroyer for God, flooding the world to purify it. Some modern Adad believe that, once again, they are supposed to do it. And that is the second time waters appeared tonight, and I do tell you one of our ill were responsible for it, the Lammasu, which you may hear as the House of the Restless Deeps. Interesting their lustful, deceptive natures in water. It is almost like they are sirens, which no doubt many have been. Similarly, their unpredictable natures, as I described earlier on, can also be linked to water. They can be calm and gorgeous, be a lake or lagoon, or have unending depths and violent storms as one would encounter in the vast oceans. Similarly, water and the oceans have inspired greatness in arts and music, and indeed, plenty of nightmares, I'm sure. Oceans, of course, existed before this dying world, though many would say it has been murdered. The Lammasu claimed dominion over that realm, the house that has always been the most beautiful of God's creations. The third house, those who would become known as the Manufactors, would provide land matter, and so too would the animals come from the creative minds of the Lammasu. They would impart chaos and colour, breath and movement as the dance of creation weaved around the playful Nereids. None, however, would watch these dances except God himself. The oceans and animals were, at this point, far from the humans, meaning they would be unaware of the wonders the Lammasu birthed. Of course, not all was so removed from humanity. Karanasi and Benemu brought the house closer to the land. Karanasi controlled the mighty rivers but did not participate in the rebellion, but his servant Zenevel was chosen to represent the house. Benemu brought forth the mortals to the mysteries of the open seas, not to much success. Tiamat was a shepherd of dreams but could not do much because of God's intervention, and Markavia was the driving force behind evolution and natural selection. Ranking higher than all these lieutenants was Belial, the virtue of the boundless deeps, later Archduke for Lucifer, one of the original Earthbound that we talked about last time. Lammasu would become increasingly frustrated with being unable to please God and the lack of responsiveness from Adam and Eve, who were all the most curious about. Unable to show themselves directly to the mortals, they performed their dances and liaised, discussed, and built huge palaces of coral in which other houses would convene their meeting on occasion, and little else. Most of us mocked the Lammasu for being practically fucking useless. Some Lammasu felt, in turn, that it was the invisible coddling of the other houses that kept humans from having higher aspirations. Unlike many of the other houses, they did not voice their concerns to God, as they were more concerned with grand visions of what might be and what they increasingly saw as the betrayal of their dominion. During this period, Belial would return from the great debate to the angels, Elohim, that action was at hand, which of course is not as simple as that. Most debates were at hand as some Nereids wished to examine all the options before making such a rash decision. In the end, Belial left and took several of the Lammasu with him, including half of the lieutenants, Pemenu and Tiamat. From the lower ranks, more Lammasu joined the rebellion than any other house. The fifth house or the third house to present themselves to Adam and Eve. This was their moment to make themselves known to Adam and Eve, to make them complete, filling the void of their existence. All the houses had gifts, but it was the Lammasu who showed the couple how to use them. The Lammasu showed the wonders of the earth, the preservation to excavate them from themselves. The humans were shown the patterns in the sky, the will to seek out what they could and not see, and of course, the gift of water to drink. And in case it needs to be stated, it was this point that the Nereids would become the Lammasu, Defilers in the eyes of their lord. God would brush away the creations and was all thrown into chaos. The curse placed by Michael upon the Lammasu was a twist on the original purpose. Humanity would continue to grow and learn, but become so involved with seeking pleasure that all that the Lammasu hoped to teach them would become lost in that pursuit. They would go on regardless, which many rejoiced in their rebellion against their ruler and creator. Whilst few angels were creatures of war, the Lammasu struggles were particularly notable, especially as they lost so much of that control over water, exiled from their aquatic homes. They were creators after all. They eventually sided with the Silver Legion as they empathized discovery of over-destruction. The Nereids mostly helped the Anunnaki, the malefactors, with the construction of the citadels of the Fallen. Later on, they found a role as muses to the warriors of the Fallen, spurring them into a battle of glorious and devastating songs and weaving chants and propaganda to help stir the cause. The Defilers did not fight to ally themselves with the demons, but to become closer with the mortals. They began encouraging them through dreams and omens to take pride in their work and compete with each other to assist the fallen. However, the duties changed following the tragedy of Sagun and the division of the legions. Certain Defilers began using magics and rituals to experiment on the humans and determine what powers they possessed, including skills that could be used in battle. It would be the Lammasu who would create the first of the Nephilim. Whilst I do not recall the specifics, Little Lamb, Tiamat was given an artifact by the Anakiri Sipakanu, or how the fucking cunt's name was pronounced, I could never get it right, to inhabit a mortal body and was the progenitor of the first Nephilim. The creatures caused great construction for Tiamat and the other Lammasu, ultimately leading to the downfall of the Nereids at the hands of Heaven's forces. The Nephilim were banished to the abyss, severing their ties with humanity once and for all. Well, for a time, that is. For the horrors they experienced during those early days of creation and the many years in the abyss, there is still some semblance of wonder, albeit with the aid of the shocked mortal mind to reawaken that desire. Upon their escape, the Defilers became focused on continuing to influence humans, but not always for pure purposes. Obsessions do not mean true understanding. Art, at best, is a pretty thing that people congregate to bicker at or stare at. Beauty is a perfectionist obsession in the digital age, a distraction on television. What is missing from these things are passions, and there is no set path or formula to claim that. Many wish to replicate the buzz they felt during the war, and whilst there is no lack of heroes, they're much more of a narrow field, so to speak. Sporting and musicianship are two prevalent examples. Politics is another, with all three of these examples being huge endeavours and requiring a lot of understanding of mortal society. Going against the grain is also an option which presents its own problems. Either way, mortal thralls for the Defiler is best sought into groups rather than separate followers. Whilst this can be said for any Fallen, it makes it easier for the Defiler to relate and know them, though multiple groups are advisable. Chances are you'll hear about many starting sex cults, but these are not great ways of accumulating faiths long term. It's more likely to burn one out than anything else, and it's just made me tired just thinking about it. Despite the numerous that escaped as Earthbound, the Defilers are not the most numerous to escape the Abyss. They charged into the first individuals they found, but spent the most time getting themselves organised, purely because it is not their nature to seek others out, especially out of their ilk. The Lammasu were most interested in discovering the new world, though there are many that wish to pursue their humanity-led visions. To that end, the Fallen of this house tends to be better suited in the demonic courts of today because of their lack of size, factions, legions, and their ease of flowing with the mortals, or rather, outwardly projecting said ease. That they can be found amongst various different factions fitting into the global power structures with ease. I would debate that without the Lammasu, the Raveners would not even exist as much as wish to destroy fiends. The Defilers exercise the importance of discovery, which you can't do if there is nothing left to study. The Lammasu also make up a strong number of the Faustians, who share similar goals. The less common are Defiler cryptics, who are roving researchers. Those few that occupied the Luciferians were more interested in rank prior to the war. Rarer still are the Lammasu reconcilers, due to their pride in their actions, hence the name. Defilers. Even if they wished it, most Defilers know that there is no going back to paradise, and now that the old barriers have been broken, they cannot rebuild. The faction do openly invite them, however, as it makes them look good to the other demons, as well as the more influence over the humans. The modern world is a tapestry ripe for exploration and endless possibilities for creation. They did not fight for Lucifer and felt more betrayed by the sons of Adam and Eve than they did God himself. If it wasn't Lucifer who first raised the banner, I am confident it would have been one of them Nereids. They are the living symbol of struggle, as well as its antithesis. They are seducers, ever-changing and always alluring. To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM Twitter and Instagram pages to find out when we upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, and you'll be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.